Hey guys, today we step into the worn boots of a soldier in the American Civil War, and you trudge into the early morning camp, the mist curling around canvas tents, like curious fingers reaching to shake hands with the day. The sun hasn't quite risen, but a pale glow brushes the treetops, hinting at warmth to come, while the scent of damp earth and lingering smoke from last night's fires drifts lazily through the rows of canvas. Horses shift in their stalls, noses twitching, and somewhere nearby, a rooster, perhaps unaware of the great historical importance of your presence, crows a bit too loudly. You probably won't survive this, but in this moment, you're mostly just observing the crunch of dry leaves underfoot, the metallic tang of rifles stacked like sentinels, and the soft, irregular chatter of soldiers trying to wake each other without alarming the horses. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, post your location and local time in the comments, because nothing says relaxing historical immersion quite like knowing someone else is sipping tea in their pajamas on the other side of the world while you march through mud in 1863. As you trudge past tents, you notice the odd arrangement of personal items. Boots neatly lined a hat perched on a rifle barrel, a tin cup upside down like a tiny metallic dome protecting memories of home. Historians still argue whether these little arrangements were purely practical or quietly ceremonial, small talismans in a world of unpredictability. You spot a young recruit barely out of boyhood, fussing with a blanket over his rolled bedding. He glances at you, perhaps considering whether to ask a question or pretend he's unflappable. You move past the cook tent, where the smell of burning biscuits tickles your nose. Some soldiers claimed that a biscuit slightly blackened on the edges carried a mysterious sort of luck, a superstition as comforting as it was tasteless. You wander a little further and catch snippets of conversation, each one a delicate thread weaving the camp's morning tapestry. Someone mentions letters they're expecting, another comments on the strange weather, and a third whispers about a bird that supposedly lands only on tents with fortunate occupants. Fringe beliefs like this were common. Soldiers often claimed they had seen tiny omens, tiny, invisible, or wholly imagined. You shake your head trying to picture the tiny invisible cat guarding your own blanket, and stifle a smile. The bugle sounds faintly in the distance, a call that is more gentle than commanding at this hour, and you notice the way the shadows stretch and pull between tents. The morning dew glimmers on rope lines like a trail of silver beads, and you feel briefly a soft calm amid the sprawling chaos of uniforms, muskets, and the persistent sense of urgency you try not to think about. Maybe it's the mist, maybe it's the quiet of a world waking slowly, or maybe it's the soothing thought that for the next hour, no orders, no drills, only the gentle art of observing. You take a deep breath, letting the earthy scent of camp fill your lungs. Remember that smell, it will anchor you later, when the world seems louder, or when you feel far from home. You make your way toward a cluster of tents where the commanding officer's breakfast preparations quietly unfold. The aroma of coffee mingles with a slightly sour tang from yesterday's rations, forming a curious, olfactory duet. Some soldiers swore that inhaling this mixture first thing in the morning brought clarity, though historians still argue whether it actually sharpened attention or merely created a comforting illusion of readiness. You notice a small, oddly painted tin cup, its surface nicked and scratched. Perhaps a gift, perhaps a keepsake, it catches the eye. You imagine holding it in your own hands, pouring in coffee, with a tiny swirl feeling momentarily anchored to a quieter life far away. As you trudge past, your boots squelch slightly in the damp grass. You hear the soft murmur of a stream somewhere behind the cook tents, a sound so subtle that you almost think it is part of the mist itself. Nearby, a soldier bends over a campfire, arranging coals, just so perhaps humming a tune you do not know, but somehow understand. Laughter bubbles quietly from another tent, a mischievous melody over the hiss of morning dew. One soldier jokes about trading his socks for a half-eaten biscuit, another claims his horse winks knowingly at him whenever he's nervous. You cannot help but smirk at these tiny absurdities, and yet in the lull of observation, you feel part of this peculiar suspended world. The first rays of sunlight spill over the ridge, and the mist begins to retreat reluctantly, curling in delicate spirals, as if reluctant to leave its nightly post. You pause to take it in, noticing the interplay of gold and gray over canvas metal and leather. Even the mundane ropes tied haphazardly, boots lined in a row, a stray hat on a fence post, transforms into something quietly majestic under the soft dawn light. You think of home for a moment, imagining the crackle of a fireplace, the smell of breakfast wafting from a kitchen. You tuck that thought gently into your pocket. The camp has its own rhythm, and you are learning to follow it without stepping on toes, figuratively or literally. As the sun rises further, you catch sight of a small group of soldiers performing minor chores, sweeping, mending, rearranging gear. Some of them hum tunes that have probably crossed oceans and generations, blending into the air like a gentle lullaby. Historians still argue whether these small acts were survival mechanisms, morale boosters, or merely ways to pass the unrelenting hours before battle. A faint breeze teases the edges of tents, lifting a corner of canvas, revealing the glint of a rifle barrel or the curve of a tin plate. You watch, noticing the human rhythm, the repetition, the subtle humor hidden in small mistakes or improvisations. By the time you reach the edge of camp, the sun is higher now, warming the dew-spangled grass. You notice a line of laundry hung between two tense shirts and socks fluttering like tiny flags of quiet resistance against monotony. Someone has tucked a small flower into the fold of a blanket, a soft reminder that beauty can thrive even amid routine and the ever-present undercurrent of danger. You take a slow breath, listening to the interplay of human noise, animal calls, and the occasional metallic clink of gear being handled. It is comforting in its own curious way, the kind of calm that can only exist when you allow yourself to notice the little details. Finally, you pause near a small knoll overlooking the camp, squinting into the pale morning light. You see the horses shift in their stalls, soldiers adjusting blankets, a dog barking faintly somewhere, and the soft curl of smoke from the cook tents. You allow your shoulders to drop, the tension of travel expectation and historical inevitability easing just slightly. It is a gentle reminder that even here in a soldier's early morning, there is time for observation, reflection, and small, quiet amusement. And as you stand, boots, muddy eyes tracing the rising sun, you carry forward a sense of calm curiosity, ready to face the rhythm of camp life with gentle awareness and a touch of whimsical imagination. You hear the bugle again, a gentle yet insistent sound that pulls you from the calm morning haze into the familiar rhythm of camp life. Soldiers rise from their blankets, some grumbling, some yawning in exaggerated theatricality, because let's be honest, you probably won't survive if you don't move at all, but you also won't die from a little sleepiness. So, take a moment to stretch those shoulders. The dew squelches beneath your boots as you trudge toward the parade ground, where the smell of frying bacon mixes oddly but pleasantly with damp earth. Historians still argue whether these morning drills truly improved morale or were mostly a way to keep men busy until breakfast arrived. As you line up, boots scraping lightly against packed dirt, you notice the varied expressions on your fellow soldiers' faces, some serious, some distracted, some amused, at the absurdity of marching in a straight line before coffee. You march alongside them, adjusting your rhythm to the uneven cadence of those ahead. The sergeant's voice cuts crisply through the morning air, but it is softened by the birdsong overhead. Occasionally, someone's hat tilts, or a button pops loose, and muffled laughter drifts through the line. You make a mental note of this small levity. Camp life is full of these tiny cracks in the otherwise relentless routine. Breakfast follows as predictable as it is necessary. You trudge back toward the cook tent, inhaling the aroma of coffee, burnt edges of biscuits, and the faint tangy scent of salted pork. You scoop a portion onto your tin plate, noticing a tiny charm tucked under a spoon. Some soldiers claimed these charms brought luck or warded off bad dreams. Fringe beliefs flourish here, and you can't help but smile at the odd variety: a polished stone, a button from a loved one, a pressed leaf. The smell of coffee wakes your senses just enough to appreciate the quiet humor of trading biscuits like precious commodities. Seated near a low fire, you observe soldiers chatting in low tones, discussing letters they hope will arrive soon, or the odd habits of camp life. One soldier swears that whistling while folding socks speeds the process. Another insists that polishing his musket while humming a tune improves accuracy. You wonder if they are serious or merely amusing themselves. Either way, it makes the morning pass more pleasantly. Historians still argue whether these small rituals had measurable effects on performance or were simply distractions. Between bites of slightly stale bread, you notice a line of horses being groomed. Their noses twitch, and one nips playfully at a brush. You pause watching, letting the warm, slightly sweet smell of hay and horse sweat fill the air. Some soldiers talk to their mounts as if they are confidants, sharing secrets no one else could hear. Fringe or not, it is soothing to witness these small bonds, a reminder that life continues gently amid the structure of drills and meals. After breakfast, you trudge back to the parade ground for the second round of morning drills. You line up, taking in the patterns of boots, rifles, and flags. Each drill seems repetitive, almost hypnotic. You notice the way sunlight catches the brass buttons on jackets, flickering like tiny stars on a miniature battlefield. A young recruit whispers that if you blink in rhythm with the sunlight, you can see the future of the war. You suppress a laugh, though part of you entertains the idea. Historians still argue whether these games of imagination were mental exercises, morale boosters, or pure whimsical distraction. As drills wind down, you find yourself walking back toward the tents, boots crunching on gravel. The camp feels like a small universe of routine lines, of soldiers, horses grazing quietly, smoke curling lazily from cook fires. You pass a soldier tending a small herb garden, claiming it improves digestion and warding off minor illnesses. Some swear by the taste of mint tea made from camp-grown leaves. You inhale the earthy, fresh scent and imagine carrying a small leaf home, a tiny souvenir from this morning rhythm. Finally, you pause near your own tent, noticing the soft sway of ropes and the sunlight bouncing off metallic objects scattered around the campsite. You tuck the morning's observations into memory, savoring the calm hum of life moving forward. Boots, tramping birds, calling murmurs of laughter, and the occasional clink of a tin plate. It is a gentle grounding rhythm, a reminder that even amid chaos and war, there is time for small amusement, curiosity, and quiet reflection. You sit cross-legged on the damp grass near your tent, unfolding a slightly crumpled letter from home. The paper smells faintly of smoke and candle wax, and the handwriting is familiar enough to make your chest tighten with warmth. You imagine the kitchen where it was written, the clatter of dishes, the aroma of fresh bread, and the distant laughter of siblings or neighbors. For a fleeting moment, you are not in the muddy, sunlit camp of the American Civil War, but instead transported to that cozy domestic space, and you realize just how powerful these small slips of paper can be. Historians still argue whether letter writing truly alleviated homesickness or merely reminded soldiers of what they had left behind. Sliding the letter open, you notice a tiny pressed flower tucked inside the folds. its petals slightly faded, but still vibrant enough to inspire a small smile. Some soldiers carried charms tokens, or little keepsakes within their letters, for luck, a button from a mother's coat, a tiny coin, or a folded paper crane. These small items became talismans, each one infused with a whisper of home. You probably won't survive the next march, but for a few quiet minutes, the letter's weight in your hands is almost a shield, a reminder that human connection transcends distance and circumstance. The words on the page are simple, yet they hold a rhythm, a cadence that you find soothing. Someone at home writes about the garden blooming too early, a neighbor's mischievous dog, or the way sunlight cuts across the kitchen floor in the late afternoon. You can almost hear the voice soft and slightly impatient, scolding and endearing all at once. In camp, small routines like these, letters take on extraordinary significance. Soldiers trade them, read them aloud in hushed tones, and sometimes embellish the stories to make them more entertaining. Fringe accounts even suggest that certain letters were read by candlelight while tracing the edges of the paper with fingers for good luck. You fold the letter carefully and tuck it into your breast pocket, letting the delicate crinkle of paper join the ambient sounds of camp, the distant chatter of men, a horse snuffling at its feed, and the soft rustle of leaves overhead. One soldier seated nearby whispers that he always keeps a small charm tucked in his letter, claiming it helps him spot hidden paths during marches. You can't help but grin at the thought. Maybe it's superstition, maybe it's clever thinking, but either way, it adds a quirky layer to the morning. Historians still argue whether these charms were practical, symbolic, or simply whimsical comforts to counter the monotony of camp life. As you rise to stretch, a gentle breeze carries the faint scent of pine from the distant woods. The letter now rests lightly against your chest, warm from your body heat, and the words seem to hum with quiet energy. You glance around at other soldiers, noticing that many are engaged in similar rituals, reading letters, polishing boots, or meticulously arranging personal items around their tents. It strikes you how ritualized and comforting these small habits can be. You imagine a troop of invisible spectators watching these little acts, documenting the odd, tender patterns of human behavior. Walking slowly toward the river, you fold your hands behind your back, letting the morning light warm your shoulders. You notice a soldier tossing pebbles into the water, counting each ripple as if it were a precious coin. Some soldiers believed the river could carry worries away, while others whispered that tossing a stone in a particular rhythm could improve fortune or even inspire dreams at night. Fringe or not, you find the gesture soothing, and you follow, tossing a tiny pebble yourself and imagining it carrying a fragment of your longing homeward. By the riverbank, the mist rises gently, curling around low-hanging branches and reflecting the gold of the early sun. Ducks paddle lazily, seemingly unconcerned by human presence, and the rhythmic lap of water against the bank has a hypnotic quality. You breathe in deeply, letting the cool, moist air fill your lungs. Some soldiers claim that these quiet moments by the river sharpen the mind. Others insist they merely serve as pleasant distractions from camp life's demands. You lean against a mossy log, eyes tracing the soft movement of water, feeling your shoulders release tension. The sun climbs a little higher, touching your face with warmth, and you imagine home again, the simple kitchen table, the familiar clinking of utensils, the faint smell of herbs in the air. The letter's words, pressed flower and small charm, become anchors, little buoys keeping you steady amid the rhythm of camp life. You glance at a fellow soldier staring into the same river, and for a moment there's silent camaraderie. You are two souls occupying the same historical tide, both suspended in quiet reflection. As you prepare to head back toward camp, you take one last deep breath, letting the scent of water, earth, and pine fill your senses. The letter safely tucked away, the charm pressed lightly against your chest, you trudge back toward tents, knowing the morning routines await drill's breakfast and the soft patterned hum of human life in motion. Each step carries the weight of history and the gentle magic of small rituals, an odd mix that comforts, distracts, and fascinates all at once. You follow a narrow path toward the river boots, squelching in the soft mud, and notice how the mist hugs the water like a delicate veil. The early sun begins to tease the surface, creating ribbons of gold that shimmer in gentle ripples. Ducks paddle slowly, dipping and surfacing with unhurried curiosity, and a lone heron stretches its wings, as if rehearsing for some private performance. You trudge along the bank, noticing the subtle scent of wet earth mingled with pine and wildflowers, a quiet symphony of smells that feels almost unreal compared to the clamor of camp. Historians still argue whether rivers served primarily as practical resources or as subconscious sanctuaries for soldiers' minds. You pause on a flat rock, letting the cool surface press against your palms, and listen to the soft lap of water along the bank. Somewhere downstream, a soldier hums a familiar tune while cleaning his musket, the faint melody carrying on the breeze and blending with the rustle of leaves. You imagine the sound traveling to camp unnoticed, but shaping the day in subtle ways, morale memory, or maybe just momentary amusement. Fringe accounts suggest that some soldiers swore rivers could soak away bad luck if a pebble were tossed with intention, an idea that seems whimsical yet oddly comforting. As you walk further, you notice reflections shifting on the water's surface, trees mirrored upside down, and the occasional ripple distorting the scene like a moving painting. You catch sight of your own reflection and pause, curious about the face staring back, mud-smeared, tired-eyed, yet alert and alive. You adjust your hat, feeling a small sense of control over an otherwise unpredictable world. A frog jumps into the water nearby, sending concentric circles outward, and you marvel at the simple hypnotic patterns it creates. Historians still argue whether moments like these offered genuine mental respite or merely brief distractions from the rigors of camp life. You trudge along, noticing small details, the way moss clings to rocks, the gentle bend of reeds in the water, and a small fish darting beneath the surface, its scales catching sunlight like tiny moving jewels. Some soldiers claimed that spotting such creatures was a good omen, a whimsical way to feel connected to nature, even amid conflict. You smile at the thought, imagining yourself receiving a silent nod from the universe for observing carefully, for pausing, for simply being present. Ahead, a wooden bridge spans a shallow section of the river. Its boards creak slightly under your weight, and you pause halfway, leaning on the railing, listening to water trickle beneath. Some soldiers swore that the bridge marked a boundary between the known camp and the mysterious world beyond, a line where imagination could wander freely. You probably won't survive some imagined trial, but right now you are safely suspended over gently flowing water, a silent witness to tiny, remarkable details. You notice a cluster of wildflowers near the riverbank, vibrant in unexpected colors, purples, yellows, and a delicate white that sways in the breeze. Some soldiers pressed such flowers into letters, home, a soft, tangible gift that bridged distance. Others believed the blooms carried minor magical properties, curing minor aches or ensuring pleasant dreams. You kneel for a moment, brushing fingertips along the petals, noting the contrast of softness against the rough soil, feeling a rare tactile serenity. Historians still argue whether these small acts were symbolic, practical, or purely whimsical. Continuing your walk, you spot a fallen log, partially submerged moss, climbing its sides like green embroidery. Sitting for a moment, you balance a small pebble in your hand, tossing it lightly into the river to see the rings ripple outward. You imagine those rings traveling miles downstream, connecting you invisibly to home, to loved ones, or simply to the continuity of life itself. Some soldiers swore that pebbles tossed with intention brought luck. Others simply enjoyed the quiet patterns created. Either way, the gesture is soothing a small anchor in a world of routines, orders, and unpredictable days. The river bends gently, curving around low shrubs and trees, and you notice the way sunlight filters through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground. The interplay of light and shadow feels almost magical, painting the forest floor with slow, shifting patterns. You trudge slowly, boots silent against the muddy path, aware that each step carries the dual weight of history and personal reflection. Even minor details, a ripple, a bird call, the gentle sway of reeds seem amplified here, quiet amplifications of an otherwise busy camp life. Finally, you reach a clearing where the river widens its surface, calm and reflective. You sit on a smooth stone feet, dangling over the edge, listening to the gentle ripple of water. You imagine the river as a soft thread connecting soldiers to each other and to the broader world, a subtle reminder of continuity amid chaos. Nearby, a soldier quietly sketches the scene. Another hums a melody, and a third gazes thoughtfully into the water. You inhale deeply, letting the mist and sunlight mingle in your senses, and feel an almost surreal serenity settle around you. You trudge back toward the camp boots, sucking softly in the damp earth, and notice whispers carried on the breeze, soldiers sharing superstitions in low conspiratorial tones. One swears that stepping over the same tent rope 3 times ensures a safe night. Another insists that certain buttons on jackets bring luck, while a few mutter about invisible cats guarding sleeping men. You probably won't survive the oddities of war if you take them all seriously, yet you can't help but smile at the ingenuity and whimsicality of human imagination. Historians still argue whether these superstitions provided real psychological comfort or were merely playful distractions from monotony. You pause near a row of tents where a young recruit is tapping his boots in a specific rhythm on the wooden platform, apparently tapping twice, spinning clockwise, and then saluting the nearest tree ensures that musket misfires are avoided. Fringe beliefs like this dotted the camp, and you notice that the older soldiers either humored the young man or quietly rolled their eyes, a gentle blend of patience and amusement. You lean against a tent pole, watching the small ritual unfold, and marvel at the delicate mixture of fear, hope, and humor threading through the soldiers' days. Walking past the cook tents, you inhale the scent of brewing coffee and frying biscuits mingled with damp leaves, realizing that even superstition and routine share space with survival and sustenance. One soldier whispers that his morning ritual of washing a tin cup with river water ensures his luck in the day ahead. You probably won't survive if you forget the rituals of both the mundane and the mystical, but in this calm, slightly foggy morning, you are learning to appreciate the absurdities that make life lighter. The whispers grow louder near the horses. A group insists that if you brush the mane in a particular direction, the horse will behave in the next engagement, though others scoff. You watch a young soldier carefully sweeping a horse's tail in a clockwise motion, muttering under his breath, as if giving instructions to an invisible commander. It's a tender, quietly humorous scene, and you feel a gentle warmth in your chest, remembering how small gestures can anchor large emotions. Historians still argue whether such habits were mere superstition or subtle forms of psychological preparation. You move on to the river's edge where another ritual is taking place. Pebbles are being tossed, their ripples watched closely, sometimes in silence, sometimes accompanied by whispered advice. Some soldiers insist that the first ripple predicts the day's fortune, while others claim the number of splashes determines which letters will arrive. You probably won't survive believing every superstition, but observing them in action brings a soft, sleepy fascination. The rhythm of the tossing, the gentle plops into the river, and the measured murmurs create a hypnotic calm. Nearby, a small garden grows behind a line of tents, herbs and flowers tucked into boxes and barrels. Soldiers claim that the scent of mint wards off bad dreams and lavender ensures steady hands while polishing rifles. You crouch to brush a fingertip along the delicate petals, inhaling the heady mix of scents. Fringe or not, these rituals soothe, offering quiet, small ways to assert control over the unpredictable. Historians still argue whether tending such gardens had tangible health benefits or was purely a comforting pastime. As you move deeper into the camp, you notice how the superstitions interlace with daily routines. Soldiers folding socks, checking rifles, humming songs, or lining up utensils. Each action seems imbued with intention, no matter how whimsical. You watch a soldier press a coin into his palm, whisper a wish, then tuck it into a pouch. You probably won't survive all the rules and rituals, but you can admire the subtle charm and human creativity threading through life here. Passing the cook tents once more, the smell of tea and slightly burnt bread curls through the air. You see a few soldiers exchanging winks, mimicking odd patterns observed in others' routines. Superstitions, humor, and minor eccentricities form a patchwork of comforting behaviors. You trudge along slowly, letting the gentle cadence of whispers, pebbles splashing, and light laughter ease you into the afternoon. Even the faint squeak of leather boots and soft murmur of the river seem harmonized in this sleepy, whimsical symphony. Finally, you pause near the tent of an older soldier who has meticulously arranged a line of tiny objects, buttons, shells, and carved pieces of wood. He explains without expectation of belief that each item carries luck and memory. You observe silently, feeling that delicate mix of affection, superstition, and care. In this gentle world, odd habits and quiet rituals are not just tolerated, they are celebrated small anchors of comfort amidst the vast uncertainty surrounding you. You trudge behind a rickety supply wagon, boots squelching in the mud as it creaks slowly over the uneven ground. The wagon is loaded with sacks of flour, barrels of salted pork, and crates marked with fading letters and symbols that hint at distant origins. The driver hums a tune loosely, timed with the rhythm of the wheels, and the horses snort occasionally, swishing tails and shifting weight as if adjusting to the gentle sway. Some soldiers claimed that the wagon sometimes carried secret treats, candied ginger, a forgotten apple, or a piece of chocolate hidden beneath flour sacks. Small joys that brightened otherwise monotonous days. You probably won't survive if you miss these little delights, but noticing them now brings a soft, whimsical smile. The scent of hay dust and salted meat fills your senses as you walk alongside the wagon, adjusting your steps to avoid slipping on stray mud patches. Historians still argue whether supply chains were primarily logistical miracles or charming accidental adventures, because sometimes soldiers seemed more entertained by the journey of wagons than the contents themselves. A curious bird swoops low, eyeing the spilled grain along the wagon's path, and you pause to watch it hop along, pecking delicately, as if in no rush to reach anywhere. Some soldiers linger near the wagon, inspecting crates, tapping barrels for sounds, and joking about mysterious contents. One claims that a tin of flour once rattled in a rhythm resembling a lullaby, bringing comfort during long, restless nights. Fringe or not, these stories circulate widely, and you notice a few soldiers hum the flower lullaby absent-mindedly while walking. You probably won't survive the march without moments of gentle distraction, and here, curiosity offers that gentle reprieve. The wagon jostles forward, and you trudge alongside, eyes wandering to the horizon. Trees sway gently, and the sun catches on loose metal on the wagon, making it glint like tiny stars drifting across the field. You notice a tiny charm tied to the side of one crate, a piece of carved wood perhaps gifted by a loved one, or salvaged from some distant place. Soldiers believed charms like this protected supplies ensuring they reached the right camp safely. Historians still argue whether such beliefs had practical effect or were comforting rituals to combat anxiety about lost provisions. Ahead, a dog trots alongside the wagon, ears perked and tail wagging with mild excitement. Occasionally, it darts under a horse's legs, retrieving a stray piece of straw or sniffing at a boot. You probably won't survive imagining a perfect obedient canine escort for the rest of the march, yet the image comforts you nonetheless. Soldiers often credited animals with minor superstitious abilities, sensing danger, choosing the safest path, or simply lifting morale with their presence. The path grows muddier, and you watch as the wagon wheels sink slightly into soft soil. Soldiers work together, gently nudging and guiding the horses, murmuring small words of encouragement. The collaborative effort is quiet, almost meditative, and you feel a gentle satisfaction observing human coordination in action. Some soldiers hum a tune in rhythm with their pushing, blending music, and labor seamlessly, and you hum along without thinking, letting the melody move through you. Fringe accounts suggest that music coordinated in minor labor tasks improved efficiency and spirit simultaneously. The sun rises higher, casting long shadows and illuminating the subtle movements of the camp beyond the wagon trail. You notice tiny details, a horse shaking its mane, a soldier wiping sweat from his brow, a childlike grin as someone spots a familiar item in a crate. Every detail adds texture to the morning, each movement a brushstroke in the living painting of camp life. You probably won't survive noticing every subtlety, but savoring these moments slows time, softening the edges of your march. Finally, the wagon crests a small hill, revealing the wider camp beyond. You pause to take in the sight rows of tents, soldiers performing minor chores, smoke curling lazily from cook fires, and the rhythmic sway of the supply wagons making their slow descent. You notice a few wagons slightly off-kilter, yet still intact, and some soldiers joking about which crate will topple first. Historians still argue whether humor and small bets like this were critical morale tools or just amusing diversions. Either way, the rhythm of wagons' hooves and human laughter is calming a gentle pulse beneath the surface of a busy camp morning. You trudge toward the blacksmith's tent boots, sinking slightly in the soft, damp grass, and the warm smell of heated metal and coal reaches your nose like a comforting, tangible hum. Sparks drift lazily into the air as the blacksmith hammers on a piece of iron, the rhythmic clang blending with distant chatter and the soft whinny of horses. Some soldiers claim that the sparks resemble tiny fireflies, each one carrying a bit of luck or inspiration. Fringe or not, you find it soothing to watch the transformation of raw metal into tools, weapons, and small personal items alike. Historians still argue whether the blacksmith's role was purely practical or held symbolic significance in camp morale. You pause, leaning on a fence post nearby, and notice a soldier carefully sharpening a bayonet with deliberate precision. His movements are slow, almost meditative, and the faint grind of metal on stone resonates in your chest like a sleepy heartbeat. Some soldiers insist that the exact angle and rhythm of sharpening predict battlefield performance, while others laugh quietly at the notion. You probably won't survive by paying attention to every superstition, but the attention to detail and quiet focus is oddly hypnotic, drawing you in like a gentle spell. Around the blacksmith's forge, small personal projects unfold. A soldier carves a name into a handle, another bends a horseshoe into a decorative shape, and a third experiments with a tiny iron trinket resembling a bird. Each act, though minor, is imbued with a blend of practicality and whimsy. Some soldiers believed that creating small items, even in the midst of war, ensured luck or warded off misfortune. You watch mesmerized by the interplay of hammerfire and imagination, feeling a soft calm settle around your shoulders. A young recruit approaches the blacksmith with a question about a loose nail in his boot. The blacksmith chuckles, offering instruction, and the recruit listens intently, hands resting nervously on his hips. You probably won't survive watching all the small mundane interactions without a smile, but observing this gentle mentorship warms you. Some soldiers even whispered that listening carefully to such exchanges brought good fortune, a subtle magical thinking that softens the monotony of daily routines. Historians still argue whether apprenticeship-style interactions like this were more about skill building or boosting morale. Nearby, a horse shifts its weight impatiently pawing at the ground. Its rider hums a tune to calm it, a rhythm matching the blacksmith's hammering. You notice the interaction, the gentle touch on the mane, the soft words, the slow swaying of body and instrument, and you realize how these small gestures ripple through camp, blending physical necessity with emotional care. Fringe accounts suggest that horses could sense tension in their handlers, and small rituals, like humming or gentle touches, made the animal more compliant. You probably won't survive without a horse companion, but you take comfort in watching this quiet bond unfold. A pile of old scrap metal catches your eye. Soldiers fashion it into tiny figurines, tools, and toys, each piece an exercise in imagination and patience. One figure resembles a cat with exaggerated ears, while another is a miniature cannon perfectly proportioned. You probably won't survive imagining yourself crafting every piece, but the creativity is soothing, a gentle reminder that even in the rigid confines of camp, life, play, and artistry persist. Historians still argue whether these small crafts were mere distractions or subtle acts of psychological resilience. You wander slightly away, noticing a line of tins and utensils set carefully on a nearby log, drying in the sunlight. Someone has arranged them by size and shape, a minor symmetry that brings unexpected calm. Soldiers often attributed luck to such small, meticulous arrangements, claiming that disorder invited minor misfortune. You probably won't survive every superstition, but the pattern and care in these small acts feel like a soft grounding ritual. Finally, the blacksmith steps back from his anvil, wiping sweat from his brow, and you observe the subtle pride in his stance. Sparks still float lazily from the forge, some landing harmlessly on the ground, others drifting upward like tiny suspended stars. The combination of routine creativity and quiet humor is comforting, and you trudge back toward your own tent, feeling slightly lighter, heartened by the gentle pulse of human life in miniature, punctuated by fire metal and imagination. You trudge toward the laundry area, boots splashing lightly in puddles left by overnight dew, and notice the faint, comforting scent of soap mixed with damp earth. Soldiers are gathered around wooden tubs, scrubbing clothes and linen with steady, almost hypnotic motions. Some hum tunes, others whistle softly, and a few quietly invent rhythms, tapping their brushes against the edges of tubs. You probably won't survive if you don't appreciate these small domestic rituals, yet watching the mundane transformed into a gentle performance is strangely soothing. Historians still argue whether such tasks were purely practical or served as subtle morale boosters. The water glistens in the sunlight, rippling around soapy hands and folded fabric. You notice a soldier carefully washing a threadbare jacket, pausing occasionally to inspect a fraying seam. Fringe beliefs circulate in camp. Some swear that folding laundry in a particular pattern ensures a good night's sleep, while others insist that whistling while scrubbing prevents misfortune. You pause, smiling softly at the thought, imagining rows of neatly folded shirts carrying a faint hint of superstition, along with cleanliness. Nearby, a group of soldiers works together to wring out wet socks, their movements synchronized almost rhythmically. You probably won't survive the detailed choreography of bootstraps and wet fabric, but the repetition carries a meditative quality. One soldier jokingly comments that socks washed in the river taste better an absurd notion that draws quiet laughter. These small playful habits provide gentle relief from long hours of standing, marching, or drilling. Historians still argue whether humor in domestic routines significantly affected overall camp morale. A tiny butterfly flits over the tubs, landing briefly on a damp sleeve before fluttering away. Its delicate wings, brushed with subtle shades of yellow and brown, seem almost unreal against the mundane backdrop of soap and water. Fringe observers sometimes claim that spotting a butterfly during chores predicts minor good fortune or a pleasant dream. You probably won't survive trying to catalog every omen, but noticing these fleeting wonders adds color to the day. The sound of splashing water blends with distant birdsong, creating a gentle, immersive symphony. You watch a soldier balancing precariously on a tub's edge, trying to wring out a sheet and nearly topple, but he steadies himself with a triumphant grin. Moments like this, small displays of physical coordination paired with humor, ripple through camp unnoticed by higher command, yet they leave an indelible mark on collective memory. Some soldiers pause to iron collars and cuffs, pressing fabric carefully against flat rocks warmed by the morning sun. Others patch shirts into crisp folds, arranging them in neat stacks. Fringe or not, these actions feel like tiny rituals, exercises in control and care amid the chaotic backdrop of war. You probably won't survive without appreciating these minor rituals, which remind everyone that order can exist in small spaces, even when larger events are unpredictable. Historians still argue whether domestic tasks like laundry influenced discipline or simply offered mental distraction. You trudge a little further, noticing a small pile of hand-sewn patches, each embroidered with initials or tiny symbols. Soldiers repair their own clothes and sometimes embellish them, turning necessity into minor artistry. You probably won't survive imagining the creative possibilities of every patch, yet the practice feels soothing. Each stitch is a quiet testament to resourcefulness, patience, and subtle humor, the needle weaving together practicality and whimsy. Finally, you pause near a bubbling creek where soldiers rinse out the last of their laundry. The sun glints off the water, and you watch tiny droplets sparkle like suspended gems before falling back into the gentle current. You trudge back toward your own tent chest, warm from laughter, observation, and the quiet rhythm of chores done in companionship. Even in the midst of a demanding and often harsh environment, these small routines remind you of the continuity of life, small joys, and gentle human ingenuity. You trudge toward the mess tent as the sun climbs higher, casting warm, dappled light across the camp. The faint aroma of porridge, coffee, and baking bread drifts toward you, mingling with the earthy scent of freshly turned soil and the occasional whiff of horse. Soldiers chatter quietly, forming small clusters, exchanging minor gossip or joking about who spilled the most coffee this morning. You probably won't survive taking every rumor seriously, but the gentle rhythm of conversation, laughter, and the clinking of tin plates creates a soothing symphony in its own right. Historians still argue whether mealtime conversation genuinely influenced morale or merely passed the time. You notice a young soldier carefully pouring coffee into his tin cup, stirring slowly to avoid spills. Fringe tales abound in camp. Some claim stirring in a clockwise motion guarantees a smooth march, while others insist a counterclockwise swirl brings minor misfortune. You pause, smiling softly at these rituals, and follow the gentle aroma as it draws you closer to the cook's station. The warmth of the steam rising from the coffee feels like a soft, tangible hug, a small comfort amidst the routine of the morning. The line for porridge moves slowly, and you watch as soldiers scoop thick, slightly lumpy servings onto tin plates, adding small dabs of butter or sugar where available. Some soldiers insist on stirring their portions 3 times before eating, claiming it improves energy for the day ahead. You probably won't survive embracing every idiosyncrasy, but observing the variety of habits provides subtle amusement. Nearby, a soldier hums a tune while buttering bread, and the gentle melody floats above the hum of the camp like a lullaby for adults who forgot they needed one. Around the tent, the cooks move with quiet precision, ladling porridge and coffee, with practiced gestures occasionally exchanging smiles or jokes. One soldier whispers that watching the cook's patterns ensures good luck for the next week. Fringe beliefs like this permeate camp, and you notice how small predictable actions weave calm into otherwise unpredictable days. You probably won't survive imagining that every gesture carries hidden significance, yet the thought adds a layer of gentle curiosity. Historians still argue whether rituals like these were conscious morale strategies or subconscious acts of comfort. You find a quiet corner and sit holding your tin plate. The porridge is warm, comforting, and slightly sweet, the texture familiar and grounding. You watch soldiers nibbling bread, buttering it carefully, or trading small bites with neighbors. Some share stories of past meals, while others recount imagined adventures of stolen sweets or errant biscuits. The gentle storytelling and shared humor create an invisible thread linking everyone, a soft tapestry of camaraderie. Outside the tent flap, the sunlight filters through low-hanging branches, casting playful shadows on the ground. You notice a soldier balancing a tin on his head as a joke, and the nearby group chuckles softly. You probably won't survive taking each prank seriously, but the quiet levity adds a whimsical rhythm to the morning. Even minor absurdities like balancing tin cups or humming odd tunes contribute to the gentle, sleep-friendly flow of the camp. After finishing your breakfast, you linger briefly, letting the warmth of the porridge settle. You notice ants marching in organized lines along the edge of the tent, carrying crumbs, as if performing a delicate miniature ballet. Some soldiers claimed that observing ants predicted weather or upcoming events, a fringe belief that blends curiosity with whimsy. You watch silently, letting the tiny dancers capture your attention, drawing you into a slower, softer tempo of thought. Finally, you trudge back toward your tent, tin plate empty, but senses full. You pass a soldier polishing his cup while humming the flower lullaby from earlier, and another brushing a horse's mane with deliberate care. The camp hums with small rhythms, rituals, and quiet humor, a gentle current that moves unnoticed but shapes the day. You probably won't survive noticing every detail, yet each observation, each tiny ritual adds weight to the comforting pulse of life. Here, blending history, whimsy, and the soft cadence of a morning in camp. You trudge toward the medical tent boots, sinking softly in the grass, and notice the faint smell of herbs mingled with antiseptic, an oddly comforting combination. Inside, a few medics move with careful efficiency, tending to minor scrapes, bruises, and the occasional blistered foot. Some soldiers whisper that the scent of sage keeps misfortune away, while others claim that rubbing a tiny bit of balm on tired muscles brings better dreams. You probably won't survive taking all advice literally, yet observing these gentle rituals is oddly soothing. Historians still argue whether camp medicine relied more on practical knowledge or subtle belief-driven comfort. A medic tends to a young recruit who winces at a small cut. The medic hums softly, guiding his hands with care, and the boy relaxes despite the sting. Fringe accounts suggest that humming during minor treatments promotes quicker recovery, though you might suspect it simply masks discomfort. You probably won't survive trying every technique, but the focus on small, deliberate actions, the rhythm of the hands, the quiet voice, the measured pressure creates a strangely calming atmosphere. You notice jars lined up along the tent shelves filled with herbs, oils, and powders, each labeled in neat handwriting. Soldiers often concocted minor remedies, sometimes practical, sometimes whimsical. Some insist a pinch of rosemary wards off nightmares, while others sprinkle a tiny bit of lavender in their socks to soothe aching feet at night. The combination of sensory detail, soft ritual, and playful belief adds a gentle texture to otherwise stressful days. Historians still argue whether such herbal habits significantly aided health or primarily offered psychological comfort. A soldier approaches carrying a bundle of bandages and carefully hands one to a comrade, offering a few whispered instructions. You probably won't survive every gesture and superstition, yet watching these small exchanges highlights the human element in camp life. The act of giving and receiving care, however minor, forms a quiet rhythm of kindness that contrasts with the larger chaos outside. Near the tent flap, you notice a small kitten curling on a soldier's lap, purring faintly as hands stroke its soft fur. Fringe stories claim animals in camp could sense mood shifts bringing comfort or warning of minor disturbances. You probably won't survive imagining every animal with mystical abilities, but the kitten's warmth and gentle vibration offer real, tangible reassurance. Even seasoned soldiers pause to watch hand extended for a brief stroke, faces softening. A table near the back of the tent holds a scattering of herbs and tiny instruments, polished carefully for use. You notice the black and white checkered pattern on one cloth, used to arrange items in a precise yet aesthetically pleasing order. Some soldiers swear that the symmetry itself brings calm, a soft mental anchor amid the camp's busyness. You probably won't survive believing every superstition, but the beauty in order paired with purpose creates a meditative calm. Historians still argue whether meticulous arrangement had symbolic meaning or was a subconscious attempt at control. Outside the tent, the faint sound of boots wagons and distant laughter mingles with the rustle of leaves. You breathe deeply, letting the scents of herbs, animals, and warm earth fill your senses. Fringe claims that inhaling such scents promotes peaceful dreams, and you find yourself unconsciously nodding along. You probably won't survive the war unscathed, but for a brief moment, the combination of care, ritual, and observation makes life feel lighter. You trudge back toward the main camp path, pausing briefly to watch a soldier gently rocking a horse's hoof, murmuring softly. The rhythm of hand, hoof, and voice blends seamlessly with the camp's ambient sounds. You probably won't survive without noticing these small, quiet acts of care, yet each contributes to the gentle, hypnotic pulse of camp life. Even minor tasks, cleaning, tending, observing, carry a subtle charm, grounding you amid the swirl of history and human experience. You trudge toward the edge of the camp, where the small parade ground lies, boots crunching softly over scattered gravel and dry grass. Soldiers gather in clusters, some stretching, others practicing slow, measured drills. The sunlight casts long, warm shadows across the ground, turning each movement into a study of rhythm and geometry. Fringe tales claim that marching in certain patterns keeps spirits high, and you probably won't survive without a faint smile at the thought of soldiers taking artful marching seriously. Historians still argue whether drill exercises primarily improved battlefield efficiency or subtly boosted morale. A young recruit fumbles with his musket, aligning it carefully in sync with the others. You notice the gentle sigh of concentration, the tilt of the head, and the faint smile when he finally gets it right. The meditative repetition of motions, the slow raising and lowering of weapons, the measured steps seems oddly calming, like watching a quiet dance unfold. You probably won't survive imagining that each drill is a secret choreography, yet the rhythm of collective movement is mesmerizing. Nearby, a seasoned soldier demonstrates the flourish step, adding a small spin at the end of a march. Some recruits mimic the motion with exaggerated care, and soft laughter bubbles through the group. Fringe beliefs suggest that mastering the flourish guarantees minor luck in the next engagement. Whether true or not, you notice how humor and minor theatrics blend seamlessly into serious practice. You probably won't survive taking every ritual seriously, but the combination of precision and playfulness adds a comforting texture to camp life. A line of wagons waits near the parade ground, the occasional horse shifting impatiently beneath its load. You watch as soldiers weave among the wagons, practicing careful steps while avoiding obstacles. The gentle clatter of hooves, the soft thump of boots, and the whisper of commands create a layered, soothing soundscape. Historians still argue whether drill efficiency or subtle social cohesion was the real goal of these exercises. You pause near a small tree at the parade edge, noticing a bird perched high in its branches. Its soft song punctuates the drills, offering a counterpoint to the rhythmic thump of boots. Some soldiers whisper that birds are tiny messengers, offering guidance or omens depending on the tune. You probably won't survive believing every superstition, but the bird's presence adds a serene, almost magical overlay to the mundane exercise. Watching further, you notice soldiers occasionally stopping to adjust hats, straighten belts, or check boots. These minor rituals, though subtle, carry significance. A soldier whose boots are properly aligned feels more confident. A hat straightened brings a small sense of dignity, and belts tightened just so convey readiness. Fringe beliefs suggest that these small details influence morale, while practical reasoning underscores their necessity. You probably won't survive noticing every small adjustment, yet observing them deepens your appreciation for the gentle structure threading through camp life. At the far end, a group of soldiers practices a slow, coordinated march in silence, their footsteps falling in soft unison. The gentle repetition of movement combined with measured breathing creates a hypnotic effect, almost like a lullaby translated into motion. You probably won't survive without being drawn into the cadence, yet you find yourself swaying slightly in rhythm, caught in the gentle hypnotic flow. Historians still argue whether silent drills were exercises in discipline or meditative moments of mental clarity. Finally, you trudge along the edge of the parade ground boots, sinking into soft earth, observing soldiers adjusting positions, practicing minor gestures, and sharing quiet smiles. The combination of movement, soft laughter, and gentle ritual creates a comforting symphony, a slow, hypnotic pulse connecting every individual. You probably won't survive noticing each subtle rhythm, yet the collective harmony settles over you. A reminder that even in a camp filled with duty and discipline, gentle, whimsical patterns of human behavior persist. You trudge toward the riverbank boots, squelching in the soft, damp soil, and notice the faint glimmer of sunlight dancing across the water's surface. Soldiers gather here to wash refill canteens, and occasionally fish, creating a quiet tapestry of activity that is soothing and oddly mesmerizing. Some soldiers claim that skipping stones in a specific pattern guarantees safe travels. Fringe beliefs insist that watching the ripples unfold can predict tomorrow's weather. You probably won't survive taking every superstition seriously, yet observing the interplay of movement, water, and light is deeply calming. Historians still argue whether these riverside rituals had practical benefit or were largely psychological comfort. A soldier kneels near the edge, carefully filling a tin cup with water. The gentle lapping against the bank, the faint clink of tin on stone, and the soft breeze combine into a natural lullaby. You probably won't survive imagining every small ripple as a meaningful sign, but the hypnotic cadence of motion, sound, and reflection is soothing. Fringe tales suggest that throwing a pebble in sync with one's heartbeat brings minor luck, and you watch as a recruit timidly attempts the practice, smiling when it succeeds, or at least when he thinks it does. Nearby, someone has tied a small charm to a tree branch above the river, a carved piece of wood resembling a tiny bird. Soldiers whisper that it brings protection or gentle guidance, though you probably won't survive believing every talisman will work. You watch the branch sway lightly in the breeze, glinting in the sunlight, and feel a soft sense of wonder. Historians still argue whether these charms were purely superstitious or subtly reinforced community bonds within the camp. A small group of soldiers sits along the bank feet, dangling just above the water, skipping pebbles, and quietly laughing. Some of the stones land in playful arcs, others sink immediately, but the gentle clatter and soft splashes create a hypnotic, sleep-friendly soundscape. You probably won't survive counting every stone, yet the interplay of focus humor and gentle motion is almost meditative. Fringe observers claim that ripples can carry messages or minor omens if observed carefully. Whether true or not, the practice softens the tension of camp life. You notice a soldier carefully washing his uniform, soap bubbles floating briefly before popping and drifting toward the river. The repetitive motion, the rubbing, rinsing, folding, has a quiet rhythm, blending necessity with calming ritual. You probably won't survive ignoring every small detail, but the care taken by each individual in seemingly mundane tasks is hypnotically soothing. Historians still argue whether these chores primarily instilled discipline or offered subtle moments of mindfulness. A few soldiers wade slightly into the river to cool off water lapping gently around their boots. They hum low tunes blending with the birdsong overhead and the rustle of leaves. Fringe beliefs claim that immersing oneself in water at a certain time of day encourages alertness and good luck. You probably won't survive every superstition, yet the scene is serene, a soft symphony of life and ritual, unfolding naturally. On the far bank, a young recruit crouches to observe tadpoles fascinated by their wriggling forms. Others glance over, offering quiet commentary or jokes about the tiny creatures' battle formations. You probably won't survive thinking of tadpoles as strategists, yet the humor is gentle, softening the edges of the day and infusing ordinary observation with whimsy. Historians still argue whether these minor distractions were essential for morale or merely incidental amusements. Finally, you trudge back from the riverbank chest, warm from the sun breeze and gentle observation. Soldiers continue their minor rituals, washing skipping stones, humming tunes, and the camp hums with quiet, comforting activity. You probably won't survive noticing each detail. Yet the layered textures of water movement, light, and human presence create a gentle, lulling cadence, one that soothes, relaxes, and anchors you softly in the present. You trudge toward the orchard at the edge of camp boots, crunching softly over fallen leaves and stray twigs. The air is sweet, with the faint scent of ripening fruit, and a gentle breeze carries a soft rustle through the branches. Soldiers wander slowly among the trees, inspecting apples, pears, and a few stray plums, often plucking one to snack on or set aside for later. Fringe beliefs insist that tasting the first fruit of the day brings minor fortune, and you probably won't survive ignoring the gentle ritual of sampling. Historians still argue whether soldiers treated these small fruit forays as nutrition or as subtle morale boosters. You notice a young soldier gently shaking a branch, causing a few apples to tumble to the ground. Others watch closely, catching the fruit and teasing each other about clumsiness or skill. The rhythm of the minor harvest, the soft thump of falling fruit, the laughter, the occasional clink of tin cups, creates a soothing, hypnotic ambiance. You probably won't survive thinking every action carries significance, yet the gentle interplay of movement, sound, and humor is quietly charming. Some soldiers carefully polish the apples on their sleeves before eating, a minor ritual passed down in camp, though no one can quite remember its origin. Fringe tales claim polishing improves flavor, while others argue it simply distracts the hands from fidgeting. You probably won't survive believing either explanation, yet observing these small gestures is calming in itself. Historians still debate whether these whimsical habits reflect superstition or practical cleanliness. A tiny squirrel darts across the orchard floor, stopping to nibble on a dropped nut. Soldiers pause to watch, whispering softly about its strategic movements or imagined personality quirks. You probably won't survive assigning little stories to every animal, yet the gentle humor adds warmth and whimsy to the day. The small dramas of squirrels, birds, and even crawling insects punctuate camp life, providing minor entertainment that soothes and distracts. You notice a soldier balancing an apple on his head, daring a companion to toss a small stone to knock it off. Laughter bubbles quietly around the orchard, blending seamlessly with the soft rustle of leaves overhead. Fringe accounts suggest that playful games like this reduce stress more effectively than formal exercise, though you probably won't survive taking it as scientific truth. Historians still argue whether camp games were critical morale tools or charming diversions. Nearby, a group arranges fallen branches and leaves into makeshift seating areas, preparing for a soft, impromptu lunch under dappled sunlight. Some soldiers hum tunes, others hum absent-mindedly while peeling fruit. You probably won't survive following every minor detail of preparation. Yet the collective attention to small comforts, a seat, a shade, a bite of apple feels almost magical, creating a miniature oasis in the midst of structured camp life. A soldier crouches to inspect a tiny insect, navigating a leaf, pointing it out to a comrade who bends close to watch. Their whispers carry soft humor, speculation, and curiosity, creating a gentle current of shared engagement. You probably won't survive cataloging every creature, yet the rhythm of observation, speculation, and quiet laughter weaves a soft layer of companionship. Historians still argue whether curiosity-driven interactions like this were considered leisure or subtle education. Finally, you trudge through the orchard toward the edge of Camp Chest, warming with sun and soft observation. Soldiers linger, picking fruit, sharing laughs, and observing the small wonders around them. You probably won't survive noticing every gesture, yet the layering of scents, sounds, and gentle rituals creates a hypnotic pulse, a comforting cadence that softens the day and carries a subtle sense of magic in its wake. You trudge toward the stable area, boots sinking slightly into straw-strewn earth, and the warm scent of hay mixed with horses greets you like an old friend. Soldiers tend to their mounts, brushing manes, cleaning hooves, and murmuring soft encouragements. Some whisper that a horse responds better if spoken to in rhyme, while others insist that a gentle tap behind the ear guarantees loyalty. You probably won't survive believing every superstition, yet the careful attention given to these animals creates a soothing rhythm of care. Historians still argue whether such rituals had practical benefits or were primarily morale boosters. A young recruit gently lifts a horse's hoof, careful not to startle it, while the animal shifts weight gracefully. Fringe stories circulate. Some claim horses can sense fear or fatigue in their handler and react accordingly. You probably won't survive imagining every twitch as meaningful, yet the soft sway of body and mane, the rustle of straw, and the gentle nicker of horses form a calming symphony. Nearby, a soldier braids a mane, looping strands meticulously into a functional yet decorative pattern. Some soldiers joke about turning the mane into elaborate shapes, imagining tiny hats or crowns. You probably won't survive picturing the animals wearing fanciful hairstyles, yet the humor adds a subtle, gentle magic to ordinary care. Historians still argue whether such embellishments were purely playful or small acts of pride and status within camp life. You pause to watch a horse shake its head, sending a flurry of dust motes into the sunlit air. The tiny sparks of light floating briefly before settling feel almost dreamlike. Fringe accounts suggest that noticing such small natural spectacles brings minor good fortune, though the idea is more whimsical than practical. You probably won't survive missing these tiny visual joys, yet they embed a comforting, slow-moving rhythm in your day. A soldier hums softly while brushing a stubborn patch on a horse's flank, and the tune mingles with distant conversation and the occasional clop of hooves. Some recruits attempt to hum along, creating an accidental harmony, a gentle lullaby for humans and horses alike. You probably won't survive without smiling at the minor improvisation, yet the effect is calming, reinforcing the subtle rhythm of care and companionship. A few horses graze nearby, their soft chewing punctuating the ambient noises of camp. Fringe beliefs claim that observing the way a horse grazes can predict mood or upcoming events, though you probably won't survive giving the notion too much credence. Historians still argue whether soldiers relied on such interpretations seriously or simply enjoyed whimsical distractions. A soldier arranges a row of water buckets, neatly polishing their rims until they gleam faintly in the sunlight. You probably won't survive ignoring the satisfaction of symmetry, yet the arrangement blends function with aesthetic pleasure, reinforcing a gentle sense of order. Each movement lifting, setting, polishing creates a small meditative rhythm, mirrored in subtle, echoing actions throughout the stable area. Finally, you trudge back toward the main path, chest warmed by sun, body soothed by movement, and senses filled with the layered textures of horse straw and quiet human activity. Soldiers continue their rituals, brushing, humming, adjusting, and the camp pulses with calm, whimsical care. You probably won't survive noting every small act, yet the combined hum of life rhythm and gentle attention creates a comforting cadence, a lull that wraps around you like a soft blanket. You trudge toward the library, tent boots sinking slightly into soft dirt, scattered with stray leaves, and a faint scent of parchment ink and wood polish greets you like a whisper from another world. Soldiers wander slowly between racks of books, manuals, and maps, fingers brushing spines as if absorbing knowledge through touch. Some swear that flipping a page in a particular order improves comprehension or brings insight, while fringe beliefs claim that reading by the firelight enhances dream quality. You probably won't survive following every superstition, yet the quiet rustle of paper and muted murmurs create a soothing, almost hypnotic ambiance. Historians still argue whether literacy and reading in camp served practical training or subtle psychological comfort. You notice a soldier carefully unfurling a map, tracing finger paths along faint lines marking rivers, hills, and roads. The gentle scratching of pencil and soft sighs of concentration mingle with distant birdsong outside the tent. Fringe accounts suggest that tracing maps quietly improves memory, though you probably won't survive trying to memorize every contour. Yet the act itself, the delicate attention, the measured movements, creates a calming rhythm. Nearby, a recruit pores over a manual of signals and flags mimicking gestures in slow motion. Some insist that practicing alone brings better understanding, while others whisper that signaling too enthusiastically might summon imaginary misfortune. You probably won't survive believing each superstition, yet observing this slow, careful learning carries a meditative quality. Historians still argue whether such exercises enhanced real-world readiness or functioned as subtle, time-filling rituals. A soldier quietly reads a poetry book, whispering lines under his breath. The cadence of softly spoken verse blends with the rustle of pages and distant murmurs. Fringe stories suggest that poetry recited quietly improves morale or even encourages pleasant dreams. You probably won't survive absorbing every word, yet the soft rhythm, gentle tone, and careful pronunciation produce a serene auditory backdrop. A small group arranges books and maps into neat piles, adding tiny markers and labels. You probably won't survive ignoring the satisfaction of order, yet the meticulous care combined with soft voices and gentle gestures contributes to the camp's calming ambiance. Some soldiers claim arranging objects mindfully brings minor luck. Fringe belief or not, the practice has a hypnotic quality. Historians still argue whether orderliness in reading materials influenced broader discipline or simply offered psychological comfort. Outside, sunlight filters through the tent's fabric, casting faint shadows that drift lazily across the floor. You notice a soldier gently tracing the outline of a bird on a blank page, while another sketches a miniature map of the camp. You probably won't survive cataloging each stroke, yet the quiet creativity and focus add a layer of whimsy to the day. Fringe stories claim artistic acts, encourage alertness and peaceful dreams, blending imagination with routine. A tin cup rests near a pile of manuals, forgotten momentarily by a soldier absorbed in a passage. The soft clink when it shifts, the faint aroma of coffee lingering nearby, and the gentle hush of page-turning form a comforting symphony. You probably won't survive missing the interplay of sound, scent, and human activity, yet it weaves a delicate, gentle pulse across the tent. Finally, you trudge back along the library's edge chest, warmed by sunlight and calm observation. Soldiers continue their quiet rituals, reading, sketching, arranging, and the camp pulses with subtle rhythm. You probably won't survive noting every gesture, yet the combined hum of learning creativity and attentive care forms a soothing cadence, a lull that draws you into gentle reflection. You trudge toward the bakery area, boots crunching softly on scattered grains and flour dust, and the comforting aroma of warm bread drifts toward you. Soldiers knead dough, pat it into shapes, and slide it into brick ovens, the soft hiss of heat mingling with occasional laughter. Fringe beliefs circulate that the first loaf baked in the morning sets the tone for the entire day, while others insist that carefully shaping rolls ensures pleasant dreams. You probably won't survive believing every superstition, yet observing the rhythmic motion of kneading, turning, and shaping creates a hypnotic, calming tempo. Historians still argue whether baking rituals were practical necessities or subtle morale boosters. A young recruit carefully measures flour, sifting it through a worn sieve. The fine dust floats briefly in sunbeams before settling softly on his hands and apron. Fringe tales suggest that measuring ingredients mindfully improves precision and mood, though you probably won't survive following every superstition literally. The tactile motion combined with gentle observation of falling flour forms a small, meditative rhythm. Nearby, a soldier folds dough with deliberate care, creating tiny, even layers. Some joke that the more folds, the luckier the day, while others hum tunes to encourage the dough to rise faster. You probably won't survive taking these rituals seriously, yet the mixture of humor, rhythm, and careful motion is strangely soothing. Historians still argue whether playful gestures in baking improved efficiency or simply kept spirits high. A baker checks the ovens, sliding a thin spatula underneath a rising loaf, inhaling the faintly sweet scent and rotating it carefully. Fringe beliefs claim that smelling bread at a certain angle ensures prosperity, though you probably won't survive testing every angle. You watch fascinated by the gentle choreography, the combination of warmth, aroma, and soft movement creating a comforting symphony. Some soldiers shape rolls into whimsical forms, tiny knots, elongated twists, or simple braids. Humor bubbles softly as they present creations to each other, comparing sizes and symmetry. You probably won't survive imagining a full competition of bread art, yet the levity adds a gentle, playful rhythm to the day. Historians still argue whether these minor creative acts carried deeper social significance or were merely fun diversions. You notice a small kitten pawing at stray dough crumbs, eliciting soft laughter. Fringe accounts suggest animals in camp could bring minor fortune, and the kitten's playful antics blend seamlessly with the soft hum of baking. You probably won't survive cataloging every movement, yet observing the gentle interaction between humans and animals adds a layer of warmth and whimsy. A young soldier hums a soft tune while kneading rhythmically, pressing and folding the dough. You probably won't survive ignoring the subtle hypnotic effect of repeated motion combined with sound, yet it draws your attention inward, settling your mind. Nearby, another soldier carefully brushes flour off his hands, the motion smooth and deliberate, contributing to the collective cadence of calm labor. Finally, you trudge away from the bakery chest, warmed by sun hands dusted faintly with flour, and senses enveloped by aroma, rhythm, and gentle laughter. Soldiers continue shaping, folding, and checking loaves, the camp pulsing with quiet hypnotic care. You probably won't survive noting every detail, yet the interplay of movement, scent, and soft humor forms a comforting lull, wrapping around the day like a soft, warm blanket. You trudge toward the blacksmith's area, boots crunching over stray metal shavings and scattered straw, and the warm scent of heated iron mingled with smoke greets you. Soldiers watch quietly as blacksmiths hammer slowly and deliberately, shaping horseshoes, tools, and occasional small trinkets. Fringe tales suggest that listening to the rhythm of hammering brings minor courage, while others insist that carefully aligning tools ensures smooth work for the day ahead. You probably won't survive taking every superstition literally, yet the gentle pulse of labor heat and clinking metal creates a soothing cadence. Historians still argue whether blacksmith routines primarily served practical needs or subtle psychological comfort. A young recruit tentatively lifts a hammer, guided by a seasoned smith. The soft, rhythmic strikes echo faintly, blending with distant laughter and murmurs. Fringe beliefs insist that tapping in time with one's heartbeat brings minor luck, though you probably won't survive testing every theory. The combination of tactile engagement, measured sound, and focused attention produces a quietly meditative effect. Nearby, sparks rise and drift lazily, floating like tiny ephemeral fireflies before fading. Soldiers pause to watch occasionally, murmuring appreciation or joking softly about catching a spark for luck. You probably won't survive imagining every fleeting spark as meaningful, yet the visual spectacle adds whimsy and gentle fascination to the scene. Historians still argue whether observing these sparks held symbolic significance or was purely aesthetic enjoyment. A smith hammers a horseshoe with measured strokes, occasionally dipping it into water, the hiss and steam blending with soft clinks of neighboring tools. Fringe stories claim that dipping metal in a particular pattern ensures a smooth ride for horses, though you probably won't survive believing all these details literally. The soft percussion, rising steam, and deliberate rhythm create a lull-like sensory environment, drawing attention inward. You notice soldiers arranging tools along a wooden bench, aligning hammers, tongs, and files meticulously. Some whisper that neat arrangement brings minor luck, while others hum tunes as they work. You probably won't survive taking every habit seriously, yet observing careful hands, orderly tools, and gentle collaboration evokes subtle calm. A small crow perches nearby, watching with tilted head. Fringe accounts suggest animals observing work can lend insight or signal minor omens. You probably won't survive interpreting the gaze too literally, yet its presence adds a whimsical, slightly magical touch to the gentle industrial rhythm. Soldiers notice it occasionally, whispering jokes or soft encouragement, blending nature with human routine. A soldier hammers softly on a small decorative piece, shaping it slowly while humming a tune. Nearby, another polishes an already completed tool, hands moving with deliberate, gentle motions. You probably won't survive ignoring the hypnotic repetition, yet the careful choreography of labor, sound, and quiet humor creates a uniquely calming experience. Historians still argue whether blacksmithing rhythms influenced mental state or were merely incidental to daily duty. Finally, you trudge back along the edge of the blacksmith area, chest warmed by sun, ears soothed by rhythm, and senses alive with the blend of metal heat and gentle human presence. Soldiers continue hammering, humming, and arranging, and the camp pulses with soft, hypnotic energy. You probably won't survive noting every subtle gesture, yet the harmony of labor, sound, and whimsical ritual leaves a lingering sense of calm, a soft cadence wrapping around you like a protective embrace. You trudge toward the twilight-lit parade ground, boots soft on the cooling dirt, and notice the camp settling into a gentle hush. Soldiers pause in small groups, stretching, adjusting uniforms, and murmuring softly to one another. Fringe beliefs suggest that observing twilight routines ensures pleasant dreams, while some swear that lighting a lantern just so brings minor luck. You probably won't survive following every superstition literally, yet the slow, deliberate motions, combined with fading sunlight and soft shadows, create a calming, hypnotic rhythm. Historians still argue whether twilight rituals reinforce discipline or subtly prepared soldiers for rest. Nearby, a soldier carefully arranges equipment along the edge of the camp, aligning rifles, belts, and small personal items with precise care. The gentle clink of metal, muted laughter, and soft rustle of fabric blend with the whispering wind through nearby trees. Fringe tales claim that neat arrangements carry subtle symbolic meaning, though you probably won't survive believing each item holds power. Yet the meticulous care itself forms a meditative cadence, lulling the mind gently toward reflection. You notice a recruit crouched beside a small campfire, gently rubbing embers with a stick to coax a slow glow. The orange light dances across tired, smiling faces, blending warmth with shadow. Fringe accounts insist that firelight encourages peaceful sleep, while you probably won't survive testing each ember's magical property. The combined warmth motion and soft crackling sound offer comfort, a hypnotic punctuation at the day's close. A pair of soldiers share a quiet joke, whispering as they pass a water canteen between them. You probably won't survive catching every word, yet the soft humor mingles with the settling rhythm of the camp, a gentle balm to weary minds. Historians still argue whether minor social rituals like these were crucial for morale or incidental camaraderie. Near the tent, Edge's horses shift quietly, brushing against one another, while their keepers stroke manes and settle them for the night. Fringe tales suggest that stroking an animal's mane improves luck in dreams. You probably won't survive believing every superstition. Yet the soft touch, gentle nicker, and rhythmic motion add another layer to the evening's calming cadence. You pause near the library tent, observing a soldier gently closing a book and smoothing its cover. Others fold maps and manuals with deliberate care, the tactile precision forming a slow, hypnotic pulse across the camp. Fringe stories claim such gestures ensure clear thinking upon waking, though you probably won't survive taking every belief literally. The careful motions themselves, combined with quiet focus, soothe the senses. Soft twilight shadows stretch across the bakery area, where soldiers finish tidying utensils and storing leftover dough. You probably won't survive noticing every small act, yet the rhythmic motions, warm scents, and gentle chatter form a comforting sensory tapestry, signaling the day's gentle close. Historians still argue whether such routines primarily reinforced practical order or subtly nurtured relaxation. Finally, you trudge slowly back to your resting spot, chest warming with soft twilight ears filled with muted laughter, whispers, and gentle rhythmic activity. Soldiers pause in minor rituals, animals settle, fires glow faintly, and the camp pulses with hypnotic, soothing life. You probably won't survive noting every gentle gesture, yet the harmony of motion, care, humor, and subtle ritual wraps around you like a soft blanket. You breathe deeply, letting the gentle cadence of camp life carry you toward quiet reflection, rest, and the calm embrace of sleep. Now, as the last light fades and the camp settles into a gentle hush, you feel your body loosen, your muscles releasing the day's weight. The soft rustle of leaves in the breeze, the distant murmur of soldiers adjusting blankets, and the faint rhythmic breathing of horses create a gentle symphony, a lullaby of subtle life. You notice how each small act, from brushing a horse's mane to folding a map, adds a slow, comforting pulse to the world around you. The laughter, whispered jokes, and careful routines blend seamlessly with the soft scent of earth hay and embers, creating a sensory cocoon that nudges your mind toward rest. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the warm sun fading slowly behind distant hills, shadows stretching long and soft. The gentle cadence of footsteps, quiet conversations, and subtle rituals echoes in your memory, a rhythm that settles over you, relaxing both mind and body. Even the smallest details, the flicker of firelight, the glint of a polished horseshoe, the purring of a distant kitten contribute to a hypnotic lull, a gentle reassurance that life, even in the most disciplined and structured of camps, holds moments of calm whimsy and gentle beauty. Breathe slowly, let the warmth of the camp settle into your chest, and allow the soft pulse of human presence, animal comfort, and small rituals to guide your mind into peaceful drift. You are part of this gentle cadence, moving with it, softly, letting it carry you. Let the hypnotic rhythm of the camp, the playful gestures and quiet observations wrap around you, and drift slowly, ever so gently, toward calm sleep. Tonight, you rest amid soft shadows, subtle routines, and the quiet hum of lives entwined in gentle care.